obviously hopefully with the NBA season, being ready to resume again, at least in some states or in some sort of fashion, we don't know exactly how. We wanted to bring up, which has kind of been a topic on our mind, is the tournament that Kenny Smith proposed, or at least he made it famous. I'm sure there's a whole ton of other ones that people have proposed, but that one being the more popular one. The 32-team tournament, which we wanted to talk about how would we construct it. Before we get into that, I do want to ask you guys, what are some of the changes that you would make with the NBA season now? Would we make the 82 game longer or shorter? The playoff system, does it matter if you're in the East and West? I know obviously you guys know you take the top 8 teams in the West, top 8 teams in the East, and then you obviously play playoff. Are you guys okay with that? Would you guys rather say, hey, the top 16 teams with the records, let's play, and then we seed them from there? Obviously you guys have seen some teams infamously in the East sneak in with sub 500 records, teams in the West with over 500 records not make it only because they're in the West. And then last thing is we go to the playoffs. Are you guys okay with how the playoffs now? I know they shifted, back in the day, especially in the 80s, early 90s, they went to the, finals 2-3-2 system. Are you guys okay with best of 5 series early on? Would you rather make it 7 games? So let's go over that real quick before we kind of go into the postseason, post-quarantine tournament. So we can kind of go, does anybody have any glaring changes that you would make? And especially because this is a hot topic when we talk about load management. I know there's money involved, so anything too drastic, like, hey, let's make it a 50-game season, let's keep in mind that would probably never work because owners would lose too much money. There's just too much money involved. So if anybody has anything glaring that they do want to add, now is the open forum to do so.
I think the first change that I would make is I would reseed teams in the playoffs. But to go along with that, reseeding East and West as just one 16-team bracket top to bottom. I think in order to do that, you have to change the way you schedule the regular season so that you're not playing so many of the teams in your specific conference. You got to balance it out. You got to play the Eastern teams more. Maybe you play
real quick, and maybe somebody can help me with this. How many teams if they're in your division, how many times do you play each team?
Isn't it like 8 in your division?
Okay, so and I'm only bringing that because yesterday in the Jordan episode, he said they played the Pistons 6 times. So they up from 6 to 8 is what I'm assuming, yes?
It might be 6, but I think you play the most times you play a team or teams in your division. Second most is teams in your conference. And then in the other conference, you only play them twice, a home and
twice. Home and away, yeah.
6 and 4 and 2.
Got it. Okay. So James, you would reseed is what you're saying.
Yeah, reseed. I just think it makes the most sense to have the best 2 teams in the finals. The years in the past, and we all know them, where the conference finals is essentially the finals. It's not the worst because you still get to watch the series, but how anticlimactic in the finals for a team to get swept or losing 5.
Right. Brian, anything that you want to add to that?
No. I mean, I think you should shorten the first round and make it a 5-game series. Like the 7-game series right off the bat is just it's too long. Playoffs start in late April, early May, and it's not done until a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, June.
It's a whole new season.
Yeah.
So.
Sean, anything glaring? Are you okay with an 82-game season from early November to late April?
No, I think if with the load management stuff that's going on now, I know the Spurs and Popovich kind of made it very trendy, but they were an older team. So I just think if you made it even 5 games less or even 4, I would like to see like look at it and say like for the guys who do like load management like Kawhi and certain guys like that, like how many games do you think they take off like per year? Maybe look at what the average is, non-injury related. Where like we are strictly load management.
Yep.
And maybe find a number. I don't think it has to be that many, but if you shortened it to like 78 games, I mean, would that incentivize players just to play the whole season because they're going to take off 4 or 5 games anyway? I don't know. But I think they have done a pretty good job with the scheduling side of it, not having so many trying to avoid back-to-backs and trying to cut down on some of the road trips and that kind of stuff because I think that's where you see, a lot of the load management.
Fufi, what do you think about an in-season tournament?
I'm for it. I'm sorry, I got here a little late, so I didn't hear the logistics of it.
Show me your shirt, Fuf. Show me your shirt.
I was cleaning the garage today, and I had this on.
Yeah.
No, I'm for it. I just need to hear more of the format of it. But if we're talking about not having an 82-game season, but we want to have a playoff instead, is that what?
I mean, basically what we're saying is, would you make any changes, logistic changes to the season now? 82 games, 5-game playoff series in the first round. How the whole season is just put together.
Yeah, I'm with Sean with that. Maybe 5 to 10 less more games, because obviously Sacramento and Orlando wouldn't be an interesting game to watch. So, but the load management part, I mean, I don't know if I'm with it or not. I think that trickles down to like AAU playing so many games and obviously college and all that stuff. And that's another discussion. But I think we need to tone it down from a basketball as a whole standpoint. But like I said, that's another discussion to talk about.
Last thing I will add, I think we've been actually pretty lucky, especially in the recent years, to see a true West versus East best, matchup in the finals. Off the top of my head, I can probably think about 8 to 10 years where 2 best teams might have been in the West. You look back and when the Lakers kind of win 3 in a row, clearly whoever they beat in the Western Conference Final was the final game. I mean, the New Jersey Nets had no chance. I know Philly pulled off a game, but, they had no chance. I'm trying to think. I mean, even maybe, obviously late 80s, you talk about the Lakers and Celtics. We could argue that those are 2 of the best teams, or even if they weren't, I mean, they deserve – whoever won those playoffs on their East or West bracket definitely deserved to be there. So those were the 2 best teams. So
I think even present day that's the case because obviously if KD and Klay doesn't get hurt, Golden State wins. LeBron's on the West. All the power teams are on the West. So I think that's here on out. I don't see another East team winning for maybe another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, some people would argue. Some people say Giannis and the Bucks could be on the horizon. He's the next up-and-coming rising star. Philly, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons, a dynamic duo of the brotherly love city. Also do have something to say about that. But time will tell, which will transition to even a better topic is, like I said, hopefully we're all crossing our fingers that the NBA season will be resumed here pretty soon. We cannot obviously restart the season from where it was with the playoffs. Like Brian mentioned, the playoffs alone take about a month and a half to 2 months. Accompany that with about 20 to 25 games left in the current season, it just logistically, and this has been well documented, it just logistically will not and cannot happen. What is the best thing? Do we do a 32-team tournament, seed 1 through 32, and play almost like a March Madness, not a 1-game elimination, later on, maybe in the beginning rounds we do that? Do we take the top 16 teams? Do we say, hey, whoever was in the playoffs starting now, do we play 10 games? I mean, I don't know the right answer. It's actually pretty interesting. I'd like to hear people's ideas on this one because I don't know how much time we have, but I'd venture to say we probably only have about 2.5. Obviously the NBA does not want to run into early season football. So you say early season football, we're probably looking at, August, preseason, all that. By the time NBA practices gets going, we probably won't start until June. So we got about 2 or 3 months to fit in this season. I'd like to hear some of your guys' thoughts, ideas, creative thoughts. Let's think outside the box here.
Here's one creative thought I have.
Yep.
Obviously, we have to hurry up and get playing with the postseason. So obviously, we have our set teams already that we're planning to make the playoffs. You let those teams play, and everybody else plays in like the NITs. Like they just play their games, and maybe they get some type of incentive at the end of the tournament or whatever that may be.
But didn't you just say nobody wants to watch Orlando and Sacramento play?
Yeah, they're somewhere in like Kuwait, somewhere playing. They're just playing. They're just playing because it's not fair that they don't have any game.
Foof, we're not talking about fair. We got to think about all teams equally here. No one wants to go to Sacramento to see them play. Whoever's not made. That can't happen. We need to come on, Foof. Think about it. Let's think creative. James, what do you got for me?
Oh, creative. I don't think that they can. I don't think you can do anything with 32 teams, unless you do the March Madness type format, where the first round is single elimination. You seed it just as the seedings are right now in their conference.
So, with that being said, sorry to cut you off real quick. We could potentially see the Hawks beat the Bucks in the first round. I mean, it's not too far-fetched.
You're right, but unlike baseball and even football, I think in basketball, just about every postseason series, the better team wins. You don't see upsets a lot because it's hard to beat somebody over the course of 5 or 7 games.
Yes, but you're talking about one game. You're talking about one game.
But think about every time you've seen a one game, a game 7, when guys actually play. The better team and the better players come to play. Like, think about the All-Star game. Giannis destroyed the regular season. He couldn't score the last 4 minutes of the game because guys started to play defense.
Yeah, but that was also because it was an Elam ending, which we've talked about. If it was regular All-Star, I still think it's like loosey-goosey.
I actually somehow I like the Elam ending so much that I wish they would incorporate it somehow in the league.
Yeah.
Whether it be in that mid-season tournament or whatever it is, I think that adds a fun aspect. But I'm okay with the March Madness type where the first round is single elimination. The second round is like a 3-game series.
And then we gradually build up maybe?
Yeah. And then maybe the next 2 rounds are 7.
Okay. But there's no East and West, right? I mean, it's just all whoever's got the best records number 1, whoever's got the worst records number 32.
No, I think if you're going to do it just for this season, you've got to do it by conference because that's how the regular season schedule was. So your standings and your record were determined by who you played. And you played 30 teams in your conference. So that's how we'll say. If you move to something where you're going to reseed the playoffs in the future, then I think you have to go back and you have to change the way that they schedule the regular season.
Okay. Brian, anything to add?
Let's go, B-Fan. I'm waiting for this.
If you're going to be creative, you have to do it this year. Like any kind of major changes, like if you don't do it now, it's much harder to do.
Right.
So now's the time. I wouldn't do 32. I would do 16. I would say if you're not in the top 8 in your conference, you're eliminated at this point. There could be some wrinkles if you're like, within 2 games, let's say, there could be some play-in type of format to get into the tournament.
Okay.
And, no East-West, top 16. And then I would do single game. I think, maybe up until the finals and then make that the series because I think single game, just the thought that a top seed could lose, I think is intriguing. And I think that's like the most drastic on this side of the spectrum as far as experimenting that you can do.
You get so many viewers.
Try it now, So
before we go into Sean's take.
Wait, real quick. So, and my last thing is the schedule is important, not just for basketball and football, but you got to think of concerts and venues on what they have scheduled with tours. Like if you go long, you can't go long because it has such a domino effect in other areas just with like the stadium and the arena.
Exactly. And a couple of owners have expressed that. Like, logistically, there's no way we can push everything back. I mean, it's just too many things going on. One thing I did want to ask before we go on to Sean's take is, whoever wins this championship this year, would there kind of be an asterisk by their name? No. Brian says no. Now, was there an asterisk with the lockout? Are we kind of viewing this as a lockout year?
Yes.
What was the lockout year?
99 San Antonio.
99.
And who won that?
The Spurs
San
beat
Antonio.
Okay, do we still consider Tim Duncan as a champion of X amount of rings?
Yes.
Yes.
It's 4.5. You're just like, he's got 5 titles or whatever he has. I don't know.
So Brian says no. James, why are you saying it's an asterisk year?
You didn't play full season. I think it's just black and white.
How's that Tim Duncan's fault? I mean, it's not
your fault. It's just it is what it is.
it shouldn't be tainted. I mean,
the college basketball champion is not a true champion because they play in a single game tournament?
No, that's the format of their league, and always has been.
But does it take away from them being a champion of college basketball? Even if it's changed, whatever, like, it's a tournament. Who cares?
No, I get you won that season, but I'm saying I personally am going to look different on that season because that season was different than every other season that's ever been.
but James, when we talk about asterisk,
If it's a team that shouldn't have won, if it's a team that, like, we don't think is going to win, like, let's say it's a middle-of-the-road, middle-tier team.
Okay, well, yeah. So that point. Let's say Trae Young goes on a heater
he's
and
not.
they win. They're
going to heat, but they're not winning the championship. Like,
all I'm saying is, does who wins it determine how you look at it? If the Lakers win it, you're going to do the Lakers might have won it anyway.
you can't go through 4 or 5 levels of NBA basketball on, like, a fluke.
luck.
Okay, but how about
Or
if you did it? I think in Kenny's bracket, if you did it the way he did it, and Golden State won the first round, how about if the Lakers got Golden State in the second round? All of a sudden, Klay Thompson's healthy and can play now.
wait a minute, you just said Golden State winning the first round?
I'm saying in Kenny Smith's bracket, they're like the.
Not happening, dude.
Well, no. Well, hang on. They
I'm saying,
might
like,
because
how about if
Sean,
Kevin Durant comes
explain
back
to him, Sean. Tell him, Sean.
Let him know.
to support James' comment, Golden State plays Minnesota in the first round. Very winnable. The 14
They're
versus
not
the
winning.
15 is in
They're not
the first round.
Golden State is not winning.
Okay.
John, how about if all of a sudden, because of this break and this extra rest and rehab time and all that, how about if KD's ready to play now? All of a sudden, you get a guy you haven't had all year in a short elimination tournament with one of the best players in the world.
So this
But,
is
like,
backing my point of how, like, intriguing. This is intriguing because we're talking about a one-game thing, and it makes it so interesting that some of you guys actually think Golden State will win, and that's what's great. If the fan actually thinks they'll win, you want to watch that game. You know,
I agree you'll get a ton of viewers.
to win and not beat a team, 3 out of 5, which is obviously less likely,
Sure.
or 5 out of 7, or 3 out of 5.
No, you're going to get a lot of interest, a lot of viewers. I'm just saying I wouldn't view it the same as I would view every other year.
James, my only problem is we're putting asterisks next to, like, Barry Bonds and A-Rod, who quote-unquote cheated the game. Why would we put an asterisk next to a team that didn't cheat the game? Whoever it won. Lakers, Clippers, Bulls, whoever won, they don't deserve to have an asterisk. It's a championship. I mean, they won just like everybody else.
You got take the word asterisk out. I'm just not going to view it the same as I'm going to view every other champion that's gone through a full season, a full playoff schedule.
Sean?
No, all good points. I don't know that I agree with some of them. I disagree with other ones, obviously, but I would say I would want all 32 teams. And I would probably do, all the way to the Sweet 16 maybe, so to speak, on single game elimination. And then I would start some kind of series. I just don't know how many games in that series, but I would say probably the first 2 rounds, maybe single elimination, and then maybe go 3-5-7 for those last 3. But like Brian said, I think the best point of this whole thing is that it is, drastic times, drastic measures type deal. So if you're going to do anything to see how a certain format or something would work, this is definitely the year to do it. And I know we've talked about it before in other segments, but I think I think it's time. I think the NBA, this is like the absolute best time to try something kind of off the beaten path a little bit to see how it would work from a viewership standpoint. And I think because everyone's home, I think the ratings would be like through the roof for something like this. So I think, we can get into it, but the economics of this would be, I think it is the ideal time to do it. So I'm behind the tournament. I think we need it. And format-wise, I would go single elimination through the first 2 rounds, and then I'd probably go 3-5-7 the rest of the way.
What else is interesting is that arenas will be the last venue to be open to the public. Like, don't get confused about practice facilities, and those are still non-group meetings. Like, out of, in order, concerts and sporting events are last. So these games, if they are, it will be with no fans.
No fans.
I like the idea.
Factors into anything, like, are we going to hear like the music from the arena where there's no stands in there, like the defense? Like, I actually don't want to hear all that. I want to hear the squeaks and the trash talk, dude.
Yeah. I actually think it's interesting, and I might be going a little bit too far to the right, but Super Bowl is played on a neutral field. March Madness NCAA championship game is played on a neutral field, or on a neutral home court or neutral court. We could probably all agree that in basketball, home court advantage is huge, like maybe in any other sport. Why don't we, even in the regular, like even without the COVID and all that, next year when everything's good, why don't we make the finals on a neutral freaking floor, dude? Like, you got to play the game in Vegas. Yeah, but it's still going to be full. I'm not saying it's empty, but why give that team such an advantage? Like, how many game 7s are won or game 5s when it's an elimination? Why is it such an advantage to the home team? Like, why can't, I want to see the best 2 teams play on a neutral floor. No home court, no none of that. Who's the best team?
Wait, do you think the home, I'm not understanding your argument. Do you think home court is too much of an advantage currently?
Yeah.
Why? Because of the crowd?
Yeah, because of the crowd.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think that's the part of it, man, to be honest. I think you keep that. I think you take it away.
They argue that they earned it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did forget about that. Yeah, I mean, if you do have the better record, you could play. Like, you're
4-5, like that 4-5, like, you're still interested in those games because of the potential
home court, yeah.
And if you do make a neutral court for your finals or whatever, how does that affect the regular season? And really not going after a game that doesn't really matter because we're going to be up towards the top anyway. But being number 1,
that's my point.
number 2 doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's why I said I was going to the right, and I swung and missed. All right, well, okay, good stuff.
Just a little pearl for everybody.
Yeah, let me hear it.
What if somehow in conference play, I already know you're going to play. This is pretty stupid, but if you're the bottom team, like, what if you get kicked out of the league and you're sent down to the G League?
Relegation, bro, just like soccer.
Like,
League.
you like, would that ever happen?
Yeah.
Like, you're still playing, let's say the Suns. I don't know if they're bottom, but like, they still have their arena, they still play their games, but now they're playing like G League teams.
Yeah, that's interesting concept. If the Premier League can do it, because the Premier League is, gigantic. I think the NBA can do it.
Sean.
Right.
No.
The logistics, I don't know how that would work out.
But then it doesn't make it so bad to play in the G League, because now you're mixing in the players. It's kind of like a bigger NBA. To be honest,
I think what happens. The biggest issue I see is that I think you just owners and that kind of stuff. I think you lose so much money for fans for that team. Like, who's gonna go watch like Phoenix versus South Bay Lakers or something? Like, people are just you won't have anyone at the games. You lose like all the ticket sales. No one's watching. But
it makes it competitive to be competitive.
Yeah, I do like. I mean, the one thing you did say about it enhancing the G League, kind of definitely makes sense. But I think if they can navigate through that part, you might have a chance. But I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
How will this like? How do we do the voting for the MVP with this? Like, who gets the MVP this year? Is it just vacant, or I mean, do we just are we gonna vote like the season ended today, or how?
I think you just depending on what they do when they come back. If they come back and they jump right into a postseason tournament, then you got to take it for how many games were played and what they did then. If they play, they say, hey, you get a week and a half of training camp, and then you have 8 more games, and then we're going to the playoffs. Then you take all regular season games into account. That's all you can do. Just whatever the regular season is.
MVP, but like, what about who's going to benefit from this break? Let's say at the end of May, like, there's always that rust. There's, players that were dinged up that are not dinged up anymore. There's guys like LeBron's doing like his rope workouts and his spandex, tights. That's cool. But like is LeBron coming out like fresh as can be and like is going to just steamroll through people, or are some people going to take 15 games to get back their groove? Like, who does this benefit?
I think it actually benefits like the middle pack teams, right? Like, I think if there's like a tournament, if they do a tournament, they're saying, look, we can, for instance, the Dallas Mavericks. I'm just, they come to my mind first. They're probably like, look, we can probably hang with all these teams for one game. Can we beat the Clippers in a 7-game? No. Can we beat the Lakers in a 7-game? No. But can we catch fire for a game and Luka goes for 40 and we somehow pull this up? Yeah, we probably can. So, or 8 games. 8 games is maybe a little bit tougher because it's like, can we make up ground? I don't know if it benefits the older team or the younger team that much. I don't know. But if it's a tournament,
if it was a single elimination, I would watch every game.
Absolutely.
Every game I would want to see. So.
Well, because maybe not, like the 15th team, but who's the 8th? Sean, do you have the standings in front of you?
Yeah.
Who's the 8th? Who's the 7th team in the West? Portland?
In like the actual playoff standings?
Yeah.
7th team is Dallas.
Okay, well, who's like the 6th seed and the 8th seed?
The 6th seed. The 8th seed is the Grizzlies.
Okay.
And the 6th seed is the Rockets.
Oh. The Rockets could win. The Rockets could James freaking dream will come true. James Harden and Russell Westbrook have finally won a championship with no asterisk.
Rockets, what would that be? Rockets Nuggets? First round?
First round would be Rockets Blazers.
Ooh.
Whoa.
There's so much talent at every team. Literally every team could possibly – not every team. There's some that can't, but, like, it's interesting.
Very.
No one wants to play the Rockets. No one wants to play the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Play Dame Lillard. Like, No,
in a one game – like, check this out.
Oh, I don't want to play Portland. Oh
Utah's the 4 seed. Utah has to play the Pelicans the very first game.
Wow.
Zion comes back and he's like 220.
Zion's coming back 320.
He's coming back 320. You're right.
I'm sorry. They would play the Thunder.
And still dunking on people. That's a problem.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
New Orleans will play the Thunder, you said?
No, New Orleans would play the Thunder, Foof's team, and they take care of the Thunder. And then they would play the winner of the Kings and the Jazz. Like, New Orleans could win 2 games legitimately.
Yeah, I honestly think now. I honestly think the NBA should really consider doing this. Because what's an 8-game? 8-game. Then we do playoffs. Why? It's we'll not even do it. Why don't we just do 3 exhibition, or I don't know if I want to call it exhibition, 3 warm-up games, or just to get the rust off. We don't want to see anybody hurt.
They need more than that, but yeah. But what about this? Not to tweak the format too much, I know we're kind of just giving our thoughts on what may work, because there's 2 different things. There's the one where you're like, what do you suggest? What do you think would work and be good for the fans and good for the players in a normal situation? And then what about the one we're in right now? Because I think they're 2 different things completely. But if we're going to toy around with the idea of what could work down the line, I love embracing the tournament style. But what if you let all 32 teams in and the playoff teams had like a double bye. So in a sense, it's the teams almost that weren't going to be in the playoffs are playing in like a shootout format just to get to like that 16.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's
You
probably
know,
the best
so
way
they're
to-
the ones playing the one-offs, and then it goes to
Last
maybe
four
even
in.
just a 3-game series.
If you're a playoff team, you're automatically in like a Sweet 16 type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
Potentially, I'd have to look to see how it would work out, but
Yeah.
something like
That's-
that. Because
but
the
how
one-off like feature is like you said, it's like everyone would watch those games.
Oh,
How much
100%.
value does it take off the regular season, though? How much does one injury really affect you if you're in a one-game playoff?
So, say that
What do
again.
you mean?
Saying if you have this like play-in bracket to get to the postseason series that the playoff teams are already in, then how does that affect regular season games? You know what I mean? And how does one injury, right? A guy turns his ankle in the final regular season game, but you were the higher seed in your one game. You're only playing one game. Every little thing matters. You know what I mean? I don't have an answer. I'm just saying, like, how does it affect you when you're going into
Same way it would affect you if you had a regular playoffs. I mean,
maybe,
a
but
guy
you
gets hurt, a guy gets hurt. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
I'm kind of confused on what you're fishing at here.
I wasn't, but I didn't have an answer. I was just thinking out loud, like how I'm trying to think of all these changes you make to the postseason, how it affects the regular season, whether it incentivizes you, de-incentivizes you.
I think Sean had the best way, like you said, give the playoff teams 2 byes, and everybody else, like the other teams, just play within, just like one game. Only thing that might hurt them, like the playoff teams, is they're just sitting and waiting while the other teams are getting in shape and they're playing. So that's the only negative thing I would say about that. But I think that might be the best idea. Like the ACC does that. Like you
The
got
double
like
bye.
3 or 4 games before Duke or North Carolina plays. So it's like I think for this point, I think that might be the best idea.
Will somebody help me out here? What is actually other than I know geographical reasons, what is the point of having the 8 in the East and 8 in the West? Like, what does that accomplish?
I just think it's like old tradition and old policy that hasn't been changed. But I don't have an answer for that, to be honest.
What's that, Brian?
I don't have a good, really reason for that or can think of one besides just old format in place, and it's never been changed.
Yeah. 'Cause it doesn't make sense at all. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, how the Bulls made it when they won 30 games that year, it's still.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been in the playoffs that year. Now, here's a good question. Let's play, hypothetical game. Let's say we do have a tournament. Everyone loves it. And it's like ratings are off the chart. Do you do it again for year 2?
It's a great question, Brian, because I think the NFL draft, and I don't know if you guys know too, but the NFL draft broke the last 15 years of ratings of any other NFL draft.
Yeah.
So they're like, hold on, is this the best thing ever, or it's like a blessing in disguise?
Shan, would you rather watch people play video games, or would you rather watch the NFL draft?
NFL draft.
NFL draft.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean,
What
there's
you're
nothing
going up
wrong.
against.
I want to see Belichick's dog, sweet.
Brian,
What is
his
going-
dog's sitting in the chair.
Yeah, you're dude, Belichick's curtains are super wet.
Hey,
I was like,
that's how you know Belichick is a man, because he
Oh.
even has his dog trained.
the best. Absolutely the best, dude.
Not James's dog. James's dog taking shit everywhere. James's dog is not trained.
Sean, I know you're more educated on this. What if there was a mid-season tournament? What did that, other than $1 million to the winner? Was there anything else that they was there an automatic berth into the playoff, or did they? I don't know if it was, because I wouldn't know what else would incentivize that tournament other than money. If Devin Booker's already making $24 million.
Well, didn't if you won the midseason tournament, you got an automatic in?
Is that what it was? Okay, I mean, I must have missed that.
It was. And
Yeah.
it affects the seedings,
So if somebody won from the West, then technically there would only be 7 West teams coming out?
I don't know. That's a good question, man. We should all look into this format a little bit deeper.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
That's the first thing that's going in, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all want to see just any type of NBA basketball, any type of sport back, but any NBA season. So I think we could probably all agree that no matter what happens, the ratings are going to jump up because everyone's just give me any type of sport so we can just, we're feeding for some sports, especially basketball back. But all good stuff. Again, I still didn't get an answer on what happens to MVP, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man, Coach of the Year. I mean, are we just gonna just forfeit it and say, okay, the best guy with the best record is the Coach of the Year?
You don't. You do the tournament, and then you do it like whoever wins the tournament, that's your MVP. Because there's always the argument of like, oh, the true MVP should be the one that's in the playoffs and win the finals. Like, do it now.
So, Brian, with that being said, let's say we do this tournament, right?
You do Rookie of the Year. You can do that.
Right. But let's say they do this tournament and whoever Team A wins. Are you taking the best player from Team A as your MVP?
It's considered.
Okay. So, are you in favor of the best team or, the better team? We're going to take the best player from the best team is usually your MVP. Or are you in favor of the Andre Dawson rule?
Well, I mean, typically, but if Trae Young, to James' example, goes on a heater and wins 4 games and gets to the semis, let's say, like, he potentially could be the MVP of that whole tournament, But maybe not, but he'd get a lot of votes, I think literally, probably come from the winning team. You have to say, we got to pull the MVP. The percentages of MVPs not on the winning team is very low. So,
right.
If you win the title, yeah. This whole finals MVP and then regular season MVP, which one holds more weight? That's a conversation. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
To answer your question, so I would say yes. MVP would be voted after the tournament season is all I'm saying.
But do you like it how it is now? Like the way they do it now, other than who votes for it, because I know that drives you crazy. Some people should not be voting for the MVP who don't know or didn't play or have no affiliation really other than writing for the sport.
I know after the season, to be honest. Yeah.
After the playoff season too? After the season's done? Yeah.
Rookie of the Year is not going to change. Even if you made the playoffs or not. But I think just games that matter, you truly see who those MVP guys are, and if you win the MVP in the regular season and you don't go to the playoffs, do you view that person as the MVP of the league? Or just
James?
No, if you said if you're the MVP of the regular season, you don't go to the playoffs. You're not the MVP. I wanted to get, because Sean had mentioned it this week. Sean, what's your take on the MVP? Because when you put valuable, now it's open to interpretation. What is your take on the MVP award? And you said it can't come from a team that has another All-Star. That's a bold statement.
I think Sean stuck in a Foof's liquor cabinet that day and drinking some of the Henny.
Why is it?
I retracted a little bit. I stopped myself. I recognized where I was going with this, and I did pump the brakes. I had that wherewithal. My only point with that was the Warriors, for example. If you have 3 All-Stars on your team, and it's not just the Finals MVP is one thing, I guess, but the MVP of the season. To me, and I was going to jokingly put it out there when we were talking the other day, really if it came down to who is the most valuable player, it would be a guy like Bradley Beal. And people are like, what, you're crazy, he's not. But if you took Bradley Beal off the Wizards, they literally might not win one game in the NBA in an entire season. But if you took KD off Brooklyn, they'll still win. They'll be in the playoffs. So how is he the most valuable player in the NBA? Now, it should just be – you should call it the best player, the best offensive player, the best two – I don't care what you call it, but you have to the word valuable, I think for me, and again, I'm just one of these people who will dissect it a little bit too much maybe, but like, I don't know that someone, if you can think of like Giannis, like they had another all-star on their team. They can still win games without him. Now, are they going to be a finals contender? No. So there is value there. But he's not the most valuable player in the entire league to their
It's actually a good point, I think. I mean,
But you could take that for every single team, though. Like you couldn't. You could take the best player of every team, scoring like 25 points a game, and say like, you know what? You take them off the team. It's like that they're the most valuable player of that team. It's like you got to factor in like the wins that make people better. You got to factor in the whole thing to that recipe. You know, what I mean?
it essentially becomes a war, a wins against replacement. James, I know you. I mean, we probably all do baseball because Bradley Beal might be worth, let's just say, 30 wins. Harden might only be worth 15 wins. Like if you take Harden off the Houston Rockets, they're probably still going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you take Beal or Booker or guys like that off their teams, I don't know that they would win more than 5-10 games. I mean, so
for reals.
I kind of I don't like them most valuable either. I think it should be who is the best player this season. Why is it so hard to do that? Who is the best player this season? Oh, Jordan averaged 35 and 5. Okay, he's the best player. I mean, is it up for interpretation?
No.
Shouldn't be. You should just be player of the year.
Player of the year.
Or player of the year? I don't understand why it says most valuable. Like, what is that?
Finn, who should vote for the MVP award? Because it's weird when you let if you let other players do it, because the players know, right? They do award. They do Sports Illustrated does one.
I have an issue with that, but keep going.
They do like a most overrated player in the league, most underrated player in the league, where they let players give their opinion. Writers are just writers. Players, you can have biases, and I don't like that dude and whatever. I don't think you can do it with owners. Maybe GMs, but then there's a little bit of tampering.
Coaches?
Maybe. I don't know that you could do it within an organization that didn't have anything to do with tampering or luring somebody or, rivalry. We're not going to give that guy credit because I don't like him because he didn't sign with us. Just the slight stuff. So who should vote for MVP? You can't let the fans do it. The fans voted. They voted like Yao Ming in the All-Star game this year. So you can't let the fans vote.
You make one person, you make it Adam Silver.
Really?
Decision. He factors in all, everyone has the round table with Adam Silver. You state your case, whoever that person is. But I think you take the approach you just did, though, and you just say, okay, who is it not? It's not Skip Bayless. It's not the owner. You start saying who is not. You all have your case to Adam Silver, and he says his MVP is boom. So he seems like a pretty middle of the road, good decision type of dude. So
I like that idea, or even having a committee,
good.
Players Union rep, former, a retired couple players, whoever it might be. Adam Silver's in the chair of the committee, but having an awards committee. I think
isn't the USA committee very diverse with backgrounds and stuff like that? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a mixture. It's very eclectic. It's not what you think. I mean,
It's government officials, ex-government.
yeah, it's like Condoleezza Rice, isn't it? I mean, there's all kinds of people. One person I want on that committee is Jeff Van Gundy. That's my only vote. I just want him. You guys can make Adam Silver, take who you want. Just give me JVG.
I think they should have former players vote. Everybody's retired. They, like you said, like James said, the joint committee, and you have maybe 15, 20 guys who actually played the game of basketball and know what to look for, and they've been through the rigor and all that. So, and maybe even former MVPs can vote.
I was going to say that.
These are current Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan and Paul Pierce, this guy's the MVP.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be X amount of years separating from the time they retired. I don't get this. Another conversation. Never mind. I was gonna say I don't get the 5 years you have to be retired before you go to Hall of Fame. I don't understand that, but
I want to make sure you're actually retired.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey,
So anyways, I think there needs to be some separation before you have that vote. But I agree with you, Foof. Like ex-players, Hall of Fame, state your case, and then let one person decide. That's a good example.
Finn, I got a question for you. Shant wants
Good.
Van Gundy.
What's that?
Each of you get to select one person to put on the committee. Shant wants Van Gundy. Finn, who do you want on the committee?
Wow. Who do I want on the committee?
Ooh, get your answer ready.
That's tough.
Kenny
That-
Smith.
Who'd you say, Brian?
Kenny Smith. But he's not a Hall of Famer, so I guess he wouldn't be on there. So, but I think he's pretty objective, man. Like I don't think he plays like I don't know. I think he's pretty objective in what he says to me. But I don't know.
Who you want?
guys think? I know more though, by the way, but
Foof?
Michael Jordan.
it's true.
So we got a committee of Stan Van Gundy, or Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy, Kenny Smith,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. Sean, who else is on the committee?
I'd probably go with Mark Jackson or someone else like in like the kind of the media world. It seems like pretty like in the middle of the field. I like commentators who like played and or coached because I think they cover like some people like an MVP was just a player. I mean, some of them may have gone into some front office or coaching, but like the Van Gundys, like the Mark Jacksons, those kind of people have done like coach and media. So like, they cover a couple different phases and gives them a little more insight.
It's hard because the two people I would pick are still affiliated with teams. So I don't know that we could do that, but I want either Jerry West or Pat Riley. I think those two they're like some of the best basketball minds that are alive. They've seen the game as players, as coaches, as front office guys. They understand the league, the culture, how it works.
James, you're being biased. They're both Lakers. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Pat Riley played for multiple teams, won championships as a coach with multiple teams.
Isn't Jerry West getting checks from the Clippers?
And he built the Warriors.
No, but he won. He started the Showtime.
Calm down. He's a Laker.
Yeah, come on.
Calm down. He's a Laker. I'm just kidding.
Non-Lakers. Okay. But no, my vote would be a committee like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Shannon, who would you pick?
Jalen Rose.
Van Gundy, that's right. You said Van Gundy.
Yeah, Van Gundy. But I would want to see. I think Reggie Miller is very. I like listening to Reggie Miller. I don't know, like how in tune he is. Like I don't know if he watches every game, but he sounds pretty, like, in tune with the game when he's doing a game. I tell you what, I'm not picking. Chris Webber wouldn't be anywhere near my committee.
No.
What about our
Definitely not.
Horrible, dude.
What about our boy Hubie
We're
Brown?
off the air, dude.
Off, like off.
He's like a very intelligent guy and like awesome player. I just cannot listen to this guy.
I actually think I think he was an awesome player. I actually think he's trying too hard to be intelligent. Like it's not.
Oh, that's the Kyrie Irving syndrome, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like, bro, like just talk normal. Don't try to talk like Reggie. Don't try to talk like all these other. Like you just talk how you talk. Like don't. He's trying to fit words into stuff like. It just doesn't
Like,
seem.
you went to Duke for 7 games, dude. Like, come on, relax.
Yeah.
10 games.
Flat Earth.
I love that. Yeah.
Hey, really quick. I know just because I had this and I was just reading it actually while we were talking a little bit, but an interesting thing I just read was that it talks about the revenue like that the NBA would potentially lose. And I'm always a fan of like following the money and like I think the money drives everything like in a lot of different regards. But this article it's a Forbes article and it basically says that the playoffs in the NBA account for 62% of the league's revenue.
Wow.
And it starts to get into like how it affects players.
So is that television though?
What's that?
Is that television? Is that driven by television?
It's television. and like at the gate, like sales at the arenas.
The
and stuff
gate,
like that.
yeah.
But it gets into like, and I'm still obviously trying to read through it and stuff like that, but I thought that was pretty interesting and jumped out. I think where I'm getting with this is I don't know how it's going to work out, but I would be shocked if they don't figure something out for some kind of like playoff run and an NBA Finals. And it's solely because of the money side of it, because now you start talking about like, because I was listening to, they were like LeBron, they keep, it's very trendy to ask like how you would feel about players in the stands, fans in the stands and that kind of, some people are like, I don't think we could play. I don't think you play it. It's not meant to be played that way. But I think I don't know if they're speaking without knowing some of this stuff, but it's like, if that really is true, and then you start getting salaries affected by this down the line, I don't think anyone would have an objection with fans or no fans. Given the
salaries are going to get affected for the players. The owners will get affected, but like there has to be a cutoff date of whatever that date is. I don't know, but like there's got to be a date where it's like we can't turn back, we can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still a long shot. It would be nice for it to happen, but you got to think, man. Like all the other sports canceled. Like baseball canceled at the end of the summer. The Olympics. You tell me the Olympics aren't a major revenue? Like,
yeah. Wait a minute. Baseball didn't cancel. They just postponed.
I'm sorry, college baseball.
Oh.
College baseball. Sorry, I didn't specify that. But, like, certain things like that have all gotten canceled. Yeah, we're kind of maybe, getting out of this. But there has to be a date of when you can or cannot do it, So I almost still feel like it's a long shot that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm hopeful. But, I think it's just, if it does, it's just going to be a vacant year, and it just won't happen. But
I'm kind of with Sean. I think there's just too much money. They're going to find something to do. I mean, if they got to play this thing in like a biodome thing, like nobody leaves. You're trapped in this dome. You sleep, whatever, in the dorms, but we're playing.
Why wouldn't you just host it in Vegas?
Yeah, I don't know the logistics to it.
But
I do. I'm like literally like knee deep in this stuff.
They have plenty of hotels to house all these teams. There's multiple arenas that you could use so that you could run multiple games a day in these different sites.
Sean, why don't they?
That's what's most likely being proposed is Vegas. But number one is that you have to – I mean, when it was proposed versus where we are now, like there are some places starting to open up and that kind of stuff. But the real reason that those places are just not open yet for anything like this. So you can't – like it's easy to say, like, why don't just play it in Vegas or Texas or something like that. But the arenas have to agree that the governments have to agree to be open those arenas. What do you do with the – like you have to have a location, like a quarantine location for the players. They can't be just in hotels with like people flying in from all over the world to like stay at these hotels.
Vegas
now you're – what's that?
Vegas is shut down. You just leave it shut down except for the NBA community that goes in there for this.
I mean, that is
out amongst all the hotels so that you're not too cramped. You bring in just necessary hotel staff.
Yeah, no, I think that's the proposal though. I think you're on the right track. I think that's what's being proposed. But
then what happens?
Hotels
like
are still closed.
Family?
Like
no, I don't think
those are closed. Like it's not. I think some things have to open for it even to get to that point. I just don't know we're not there just yet.
Let me say this.
Games, I want the courtside microphones turned all the way up.
Oh, of course, volume up. You got to think it's May. Like it's May right now.
Yeah.
You still have 2 weeks proposed to get ready, like, and the lights aren't even on yet. So you're thinking like the earliest June, or are you thinking like this thing would probably have to be in like July, honestly, which is fine because that's kind of typical. No, it's like a month later than normally, but
yeah.
You do a 1 week.
In my mind,
you do 1 week training camp at the end of June.
I just don't know.
1 week. James, they haven't done anything for like a month and a half. Like 1 week, like there's no way. I don't think anybody would. It's got to be at least 14 to 21 days.
Yeah.
Of some sort of, I don't know if it's practice, but some sort of, consistent conditioning.
How long is the NBA preseason?
Which I hate. Preseason should go away, by the way.
But not the summer league, Finn. The Vegas summer league's fun.
Yeah.
Single purpose.
And by the way, Rodman took like 4 days off and came back beating everybody. So if he can do it, I think anybody can actually.
Walked in the
Talk about the Last Dance at all? Is there a segment for that?
Yeah, that's for later, Brian. That's the dessert. We're still on dinner. James is on his vino. Sean, because you're probably the most educated with this subject out of all of us, if you were to put a bet right now, is it probably going to be at one quarantine location?
Yeah.
Or, because I saw some other things. Now, again, I'm not as far in depth as you.
You didn't see anything else.
No, I did see that the states that are open, let's say we do have a guest visitor.
Can you wave?
You should be in bed, little mama.
She should be in bed. You get that done?
Hi, Sloan.
Want to say hi? You want to stick in this little better here? Okay, I love you.
Sean, what's the thing that – how like Atlanta or Georgia's planning on being open pretty soon? Yeah. There's a couple – how about if – and obviously I think we could all agree like California and New York are probably going to be the last ones to do so. I heard some stuff that they're going to like migrate the California teams to these other states that are open. Like Lakers, because Georgia's open, you guys go to Georgia. Sacramento, you guys go to, whatever.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is kind of like what I think that's like plan B. I think that falls behind maybe what's been tossed around with the whole like one location, like everyone goes to Vegas, or like, like baseball's talking about everyone playing in Texas, or maybe like a 3-site type deal. But I know the one year, I think it was the Katrina year, where like New Orleans played all their games at Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So like, I think there is like that potential. I think we would have to really be open for that to happen. And then you just pick the ones that are like last, like the New York teams, California, and relocate them to Nashville and Georgia and like that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I think that's way behind. I think the only reasonable option is just like a month of July, and you figure out whatever format you can fit so that it finishes in the month of July, you have to go with. And it might not be a 32 team. It might just be the 8 teams from each conference that are in it right now, and you just play. And you get whatever. From May 15th, it sounds like most teams will be back to at least just doing individual stuff. Maybe they just get a month in June for a training camp and I don't know, a couple exhibition games. But Brian's right. This thing can't go too much farther than that if you plan on starting the next season on time. The only argument would be, do you push back the 2020-2021 season?
You can't rush that, because like then you're like, get hurt if they come back too soon, right? You go from 0 to an NBA, people will get hurt. Like you got to like ease your way into it, But,
I guess just to play devil's advocate, and obviously you guys know where I stand. I want basketball more than anybody. But if you're going to do it and it's so like crammed July, why even do it? I mean, it's just like just to do it for a month. I mean,
got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, but but money. But how much money are you actually going to make it? Well, maybe a lot, I guess. But
more than if you didn't run anything.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's another thing out there that I literally just read, like some of like the first couple paragraphs of it, but I'll send it to you guys. It's an article about the advertising money that got dumped in the NBA between all the networks, Turner, ESPN, all that kind of stuff. It's like in the billions. And this goes like so much farther than just whether or not there's like fans in the stands and that kind of stuff. Like the economics behind it is like crazy.
Astronomical.
So like trying to figure out how to like do this, I think they will do anything, including, and I hate to be that guy, rushing it and potentially putting people at some kind of injury risk. I think that almost is going to come with it, to be honest with you.
I don't think they care at this point. I mean, I don't think the fans care. They're just these people. We want basketball. If we have to sacrifice a Julius Randle, so be it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But I think what they, like I said, I think at this point we'll just have to jump into what we can at this point, and then I think what I mean, I don't know. Like maybe condense next season, and then for the season after that, maybe go back to 82 games. But I think at this point, I think the players want to play too. So it's not just the fans. The fans want to watch it. I think the players, they know. Like at this point, I think in sports in general, they know that in the God-given moment, this can be taken from them at any point. So what's the point of wasting time now and slowing things down?
So if all these players that are at home with their kids, how badly do they want to be back in the arena?
ASAP. They're like they never, just like us, they've never been home so much of their lives before ever, especially since they got into the league. Obviously, the rookies and second-year guys are whatever, but
They're still getting paid though.
they are. Well, at first it wasn't, but now they are.
They're
but
losing money by the game, aren't they?
No. They're getting paid now.
Oh,
But thinking of somebody like LeBron. LeBron been in the league for 17 years. He's for sure never been home this much ever in his life. Like
making
like,
TikToks and everything.
But yeah, it just like I don't know. Like even like hearing Kobe talk about retirement, like why he wanted to retire because he wanted to spend time with his family. And I think that like you play a long NBA career, you're never home. You're on the road. Obviously, you have your summer stuff, but that's not the same.